This is, I don't care what the critics say. This is a pretty good album. No two ways about it. In a career for a band that went through multiple stages and we're almost always in transition, this is the transitional album. This is the pivot point between early Beatles and late Beatles. I don't think that's Rubber Soul. Rubber Soul is where the transition starts, but I think this is where it really happens. And yet there's past in here as well, present, future, like it's all there in this album. So I think that's why it's cherished by so many, including me. This, by the way, is the 1971 British pressing. It is not mono, unfortunately. It's stereo, but it's in pretty good nick. Just a word about the cover art. Klaus Voormann, who's the guy that did the art for the cover, figured out that the way to caricature John Lennon was to draw his nose like an absolute perpendicular line, north to south. And if you're actually trying to draw John Lennon, that's what you do, which always kind of amuses me. Anyway, and then here they are on the back cover trying out the new sunglasses they have and so on, and may or may not be wasted at this point. Anyway, this is where all the druggy stuff starts too. But anyway, so amazing art. Say no more on that. This is a great album. It kicks off with what I would argue is a song that is only amazing in an album of truly amazing, extra amazing songs. Taxman, of course, is the song that kicks off the album. It's great musically. Lyrically, there may have been a little bit of room for improvement. It's a song about tax, and worse, I think it's about complaining about the marginal tax rate and complaints about the estate tax, literally. It's sort of the Phantom Menace of Beatles songs. That said, it's got a little bit of the Indian flair, foreshadowing where George was going to go. Weirdly enough, even though it's a George song, George doesn't play lead, it's Paul playing lead on this. So, great song, lyrically, but still, I mean, things only go up from here, so there you go. Eleanor Rigby, it's a string quartet backing them up. And you have to actually think about that consciously when you think of the song, because it just seems like a Beatles song and a pop song. There's no drums, there's no bass, there's no guitars, just a string quartet. And I know that sounds like an obvious point, but sometimes I find myself, and I've been listening to the Beatles since I was 4, forgetting that point. So that's quite something. Then we come to what is, I guess, the first of the 3 stoner songs that John has on this record, and arguably his 3 best stoner songs that he ever wrote. And they get more psychedelic as they go through the album. The first of those is "I'm Only Sleeping," which I guess is like the early foreshadowing of the Slacker era. It also has a backwards guitar, which is kind of cool sounding. And then we move on to "Love You Too," which is really the first major flourishing of George's sitar fetish, and I think it's a phenomenal song, particularly in light of the fact he'd only really picked up the instrument a few months before this. I mean, I'm sure if you're a sitar virtuoso, it's no great shakes, but I'm not. It sounds fantastic to me. It's also another one of these songs, much like George's first contribution on the album, Taxman, where the lyrics aren't quite as all-world as the music, because he encourages you to do a lot of things, including make love singing songs. I don't know if you've tried this. It's not really a high percentage play. Here, there, and everywhere. This is kind of the perfect balance, I think, between Paul's rock and roll side and then his so-called granny music side, which John was so rude about later on. Understandably, I think, because at a certain point, Paul, around 1967 or 8, forgot that he was a rock star and just began to churn out 1930s and 40s British music hall numbers, which, assuming that everybody was going to go along with him, it's basically novelty music and is what it is. But this is not the case with this song. Here, There, and Everywhere, I think, is the absolute perfect resting point between those 2 aspects of McCartney. Just lovely. Yellow Submarine. We certainly all loved it when we were 8. Long may it prosper. I would say that for me, Lennon totally steals the show, just with his few backing vocals that he adds in there. It is what it is, but I always loved his little asides, and I still do. So then we come to She Said, She Said. I think there's 2 phenomenal songs on this album, and this is one of them. And they're both Lennon songs. And I don't know which one I think is better. It might be the other one I'm going to mention later, but this is close. And this song, She Said, She Said, for me is a competitor for top 10 Beatles songs for sure. I think it has everything. It's got the sort of the lyrical growth, the slightly weird mysticism that starts to creep into his songwriting at this point. It's got great production techniques. It's cool. It's a bit edgy. It has a slightly but not overly psychedelic lyric. This one, Tomorrow Never Knows, which is later on, Rain, right, from this particular period, are, I think, as good as anything they ever did, or arguably the best things they ever did. Love that song. Love it. And then we're back to Paulville. And interestingly enough, this album, you start to see the big divide between Paul's tangent and John's tangent, and I guess George's too, but certainly between the two primary songwriters of the band, you just begin to see their arcs just take different directions. Good Day Sunshine, this is another one where, is it a rock song? I don't know if it's a rock song. It kind of is. It's really pure pop. So uplifting and cheerful as a song. It's amazing. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I hear that song, if I can visualize myself in certain kinds of environments and places, and they're always happy, and way to go, Paul. That's a good song. Then And Your Bird Can Sing. One theory that this is actually a dig at Mick Jagger, and that the bird in question is Mick Jagger's girlfriend at the time, Marianne Faithfull, who they had just cut a record. I don't know if that's true, but anybody that makes fun of Mick Jagger is okay by me, and so I'm hoping that's actually the reason. It's a pretty darn good song too. Great harmony. Like so many songs in this record, the harmony, these guys just did amazing things in their sleep almost, and the harmony in this song is so good. George's guitar is amazing in this song as well. Fantastic. Then For No One, this is there's a fun little subset of Beatles songs which are second person love songs, right? Like She Loves You and so on, where the narrator is singing to somebody about, I guess, their dissipating love affair or what have you. It's a great sad Paul songs, and there aren't too many sad Paul songs, so this is one to be cherished. I love it. Then we come to Dr. Robert, which is one of the great drug songs. And I would put it up as a pretty rarefied company with J.J. Cale's Cocaine, which of course Eric Clapton covered. I put it up there with Sweet Leaf and Snowblind by Sabbath, up there with Golden Brown by the Stranglers, and then there's this one. And again, there's always these theories about what these songs are about. One theory is this is about Bob Dylan. I kind of like that idea because apparently he was the guy that introduced the Beatles to weed. So, there you have it. And then we get to what I think is a slightly lower light in an otherwise excellent album, and that is George's I Want to Tell You. This song I kind of feel, well, what's right or wrong, but it may not resonate with people, but I kind of feel this is George reaching for the kinds of things that Lennon achieves on Tomorrow Never Knows, but falling kind of well short of the mark. Musically, it's okay. Lyrically, it's okay. They take this song off and put Rain on instead. I think you have something just mind-bending as a record. And then we're back to Cheerful Paul again with Got to Get You Into My Life. Is it a rock song? It's kind of a rock song. I have not been able to shake the idea for years. This is a song that they actually should have just given to Tom Jones. Maybe Tom Jones actually covered it. I'm not enough of a Tom Jones fan to know this, but it feels like a Tom Jones song to me. Okay, all that aside, now we're at the last song of the album, which is arguably the best song the Beatles ever did, and I think it's certainly the best song that John ever did. Tomorrow Never Knows. This is the one where I guess he told George Martin that he wanted to sound like howling into a gale on the top of a Tibetan mountain. I don't know that the production, that Jeff Emmerich actually achieves that as much as is said, but there's something otherworldly, energetic, spooky, trippy about this song. I mean, this is, as much as other parts of this album, and maybe a little bit of Rubber Soul, open the door a crack to the later 60s, this is just blowing the door wide open. This is the greatest early psychedelic track, and it is so cool. And the thing that holds it all together, despite all of the great lyrics and the production and Lennon's vision for the song and all the the production techniques that go into how the guitar is produced and all the rest of it, all those seagull sounds. This song is nothing without Ringo's single repetitive drum figure that he plays all the way through, which much like the rug in The Big Lebowski, ties the whole room together. So the more I listen to this song, and I probably have listened to it 300 or 400 times. It's Ringo's drumming, which is the magic of this.